Grieving is not only part of healing trauma, it's part of the fundamental experience of life. Being able to connect to, integrate, and express our grief is what allows us to stay transformative and evolutionary. In the case of trauma, we have often suppressed layers and layers and layers of grief, and it's often blocking us from moving through to a stage of life where we become creators. Grief exists on a spectrum, so it transcends the arc from loss to desire. And when we honor the loss, we also open that whole arc so we can begin to understand what it is we truly desire and value and love and want, and then go on to create it. When we've been suppressing grief for such a long time, the thought of processing it can just feel so overwhelming. It's almost as if we're afraid the moment that we look at it or touch it, we're going to fall into an ocean of it and drown. And so when working with grief, it's always really important to start really slowly, almost like we're putting our toe or our finger into the waters of grief to test, is it safe for me here? And once we sort of see and experience and feel that, yeah, our grief is not going to consume us and it actually helps us to feel it and to release it, we can begin to sort of step further and further into processing and clearing these layers of grief, which open this really beautiful portal to creation and growth. I think I'll be processing grief forever, to be honest, not only because there's been so much trauma to process, but because it's what allows me to be new and vital and evolutionary. So in this practice, we're simply going to tune into grief. Grief can be present anywhere, but it's most commonly connected to through the chest and lungs and into the throat. And many people experience that there can be this heaviness or stuckness here in the lungs, almost like this closure on the throat. And when we connect to it, we're going to bring our hands to our chest and we're going to sort of breathe in to connect and exhale to allow it to live and breathe and express and release. And so you can do that by inhaling through the nose, but allowing your exhale to come through an open mouth. So it'll be like to breathe in and then to breathe out with this sort of very active exhale to release. And what can happen when we're engaging with this practice is that it can be normal for perhaps at first to feel a little restricted. And as we continue, the sort of channel through from the lungs and up the throat and out through the mouth can start to open up. Some people feel like it's almost like there's sort of smoke or fog coming out of the body. And some people get a tendency to cough. And so if there is the feeling of wanting to cough, allow it to come out. Something else that can happen when we're holding on to a lot of grief is that we can actually get this tightening or bracing through our jaw and our neck and our upper chest here around our clavicle area. So something you might like to try through the process is actually like loosening up your shoulders and your neck and actually playing with the shape of your mouth. So it's not very attractive, but that's okay. This is about healing and nothing else, but you might like to move your mouth around like this and really open up the jaw and the neck as well. Okay, and the affirmation that we're going to pair with this is, I welcome my grief to live, breathe, and leave me. I set it free. Now, if you've been holding on to a lot of grief, and let's face it, most of us have, this might feel very tender and it may evoke a lot of tears or the need to just snuggle up and feel poochy for a while. And that's okay. Just make sure you engage in this practice when you have got space and time to do so. So not before you have to go to an event or a meeting or work or look after children or anything like that. So set your space with intention. All right, so you can come into a nice seated position, whatever's comfortable for you. And you can slowly close your eyes if it feels safe. And bring your hands to your heart space. And just taking a moment to connect to orient to any grief that you may be holding on to. And just get comfortable with attuning to both your inhale and your exhale. And allowing your inhale to come through your nose and your exhale to come through your mouth. And breathing in to connect with your grief. And exhaling through your mouth to let it express, to leave you. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing in to connect with the grief. And breathing out to let it live, breathe, be free, leave you. And just stay with that practice. And connecting to the affirmation, I welcome my grief to live, breathe, and leave me. I set it free. And just stay with your process, your inhale to connect, your exhale to release. See what it's like to bring in the movement of your shoulders or neck, your jaw. And if there's a sense to cough or to cry or to make noise of any kind, you can just allow it. Your grief is your own, it's art.